was here that the sweet science of boxing was born and bred, and with the world's first heavyweight champions, James Figg and Daniel Mendoza, lived and fought. But for over a century, the heavyweight crown has eluded the British, though there have been some gallant attempts. In the 30s, Tommy Farr went 15 rounds with Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, but in the end, Farr lost, and Louis kept his crown. In 1963, a future king, Cassius Clay, entered the ring against the then pride of the English, Henry Cooper. Cooper stunned the boxing world with this knockdown in the 4th round. But between rounds, Clay caught his breath when he changed an allegedly slit glove. In the 5th round, Cooper's luck changed, and the fight was stopped. In '66, they met again with the same results. The 70s brought Joe Bugner. This heavyweight faced the likes of Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. But with Bugner's string of losses, the fans in England had lost all hope. Until the arrival of this man, Frank Bruno, perhaps the most popular fighter this country has ever known. His devastating first-round knockout of Jurek Kotsia earned him tonight's shot at the long-sought-after heavyweight crown. In his way is terrible Tim Witherspoon. He's won the title twice and has every intention of taking it back home after tonight's battle. 1 year ago brought the music world Live Aid, but the big event tonight is World Championship Boxing. Tim Witherspoon defends his WBA heavyweight crown against Frank Bruno. We're live at Wembley for the first open-air fight in 23 years. It's 12:30 a.m. London time, and we're live inside Wembley Stadium, where a record-breaking crowd approaching 50,000 is wide awake with anticipation. By the end of 15 rounds, they hope to see Frank Bruno snatch the WBA heavyweight crown from Tim Witherspoon. Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins, along with Sugar Ray Leonard and Larry Merchant. Well, it hasn't been the best of summers for British sports fans. Barry McGuigan, of course, lost that fight in Las Vegas. The British soccer team lost in World Cup competition in Mexico City. No British tennis player got past the 2nd round at Wimbledon, and today, just to compound matters for them, they lost in the Davis Cup to Australia. Even the cricket team lost a test match to India. But this event, well, tonight, the British fans hope to repeat their biggest moment in sports. That took place in 1966 when the soccer team won right here in Wembley Stadium. And Larry Merchant, this event, to say that it's big is really to make an understatement. It's all you've read about here for the past month.
That's true. And Barry, this may be the largest live crowd at a boxing event in decades, since television really started to be a dominant force in boxing. And I guess one of the amazing things about it is the contrast between the attitude back home, which I guess you'd have to describe as apathy. And you can understand both points of view. There are 3 heavyweight champions, which is to say none, which is why we're having this heavyweight series, to get 1 heavyweight champion. But for the British, who haven't had a heavyweight champion in this century, this is like their favorite son going against Muhammad Ali or Joe Louis. They don't care who they're fighting for a heavyweight championship. They've even backed their man to an 8-5 favorite tonight here in London. The first time ever that a British challenger has been favored over an American champion right in his hometown. I don't know what it means for the fight, Barry. If Frank Bruno can fight, it'll all be a great aid to him.
Well, it's really interesting, Sugar Ray Leonard, the fact that we hear so much about Frank Bruno, and yet the champion is Tim Witherspoon. Now, he's got a couple of problems. One, he's got 50,000 people here who essentially are going to be rooting against him. I wanted you to talk about a couple of things. You fought before a very big crowd in Montreal. Tell us, first of all, what kind of an effect it has fighting before a big crowd like this. And the other thing, of course, that Tim Witherspoon has got to fight is Tim Witherspoon himself. He came in at 235. That's 8 pounds heavier than he's ever been for a championship fight.
Well, Brad, what's more important is the weight factor. Tim Witherspoon coming at, 235. And I'm surprised, rather surprised, the fact that because he fought Pinklon Thomas and Tony Tubbs, and he was lethargic. He didn't have that movement, didn't have that zest. And here with a potent puncher like Frank Bruno, he could be asking for problems. As far as the crowd is concerned, these guys are energized, and they are for Frank Bruno, and they want to see something happen.
What effect does it have, though, on a fighter? Now, you talked to me before the fight about what it was like for you when you fought Roberto Duran in Montreal before a big crowd.
I lost perspective. The fight was so big, it was an event. It was a major event, and these people here can have somewhat of an effect on a fighter. It did with me. It might have an effect on Tim Witherspoon.
All right, let's talk about Tim Witherspoon. He's a guy, for all intent, has fought in relative obscurity. He is the holder of a title. He has a championship belt. But perhaps the biggest problem for the champion is that nobody knows he's the champion. Will a real heavyweight champion please raise his hand? Well, if you ask this man, he'll tell you he is in fact the real champion. For a time at least, it looked as though terrible Tim Witherspoon was right. Things couldn't have been rosier for Witherspoon despite having lost to the then champion Larry Holmes. He had Holmes beat, and then inexperience reared its ugly head, and Holmes survived. Enter another pretender, Greg Page, and in a fight that made apathy seem exciting, Tim, not-so-terrible Witherspoon emerged as champion. But perhaps in his own eyes, more than those of the public. In his first defense, Witherspoon was soundly given a boxing lesson by Pinklin Thomas, and there was a new champion. It was out with the old, he wasn't so old, and in with the new. It seemed that as fast as he had ascended to the crown, it was snatched from his head. But it was only temporary. In another dance of the giants in January of 1986, Witherspoon took back what he felt was his own as he defeated Tony Tubbs, aptly named, in another critically unacclaimed extravaganza in Atlanta. But the sweetness of the moment was to be short-lived. Traces of marijuana were found in Witherspoon's bloodstream after the fight with Tubbs. His admission to the charges brought a fine, admission to a rehab program, and another public scar. But the problems, he says, are a thing of the past.
You know, everybody makes mistakes, but you got to learn in order to regain respect. I feel as though that I did something wrong, and it hurt a lot of children, hurt a lot of people, you know, because who knew that Tim Witherspoon was even involved with something like that? Now, you know, things that happen, you know, penalties and everything, it helped me out a hell of a lot.
Tim Witherspoon does not have a drug problem. That's first. He made a foolish mistake, and he's paid and paid dearly for it. Not only via headlines, via embarrassment, family embarrassment, but also financially. And right now, he's happier. He understands the effects that these things can have on you. And he's put all that kind of stuff behind him, and he's going forward now. And I'm quite proud of him. In fact, very, very proud of him.
And so the roadshow now comes to London. His troubles left packing at home, and his crown perched precariously once again. But it is perhaps as much the role of the champion to act the part as to be the part. And the Witherspoon arrival at Heathrow Airport was vintage hype. But lest you think it's all fun, games, and glitter, the Witherspoon Brain Trust quickly shuttled their charge off, not to the bright lights of the West End, but to the sanctity and rural peacefulness of Basildon, 32 miles from the glitz.
Against the promoter's wishes, I made a decision to make our camp atmosphere here in England the same as it was in the U.S. The promoters were giving me all of this. My father, Mickey Duff, Mike, everyone was telling me, you got to go into London, we need to sell tickets. I said, correction, you need to sell tickets. I'm going to take my world's champion out somewhere out of the bright light, somewhere where he can be quiet, comfortable, and not be bothered with the bright lights of a big city, and especially a city like London, a city that we very rarely visit.
Well, the best laid plans. Personal chef, sparring partners, and peace and quiet lovers were foiled. If terrible Tim Witherspoon wouldn't come to the big city would come to Tim Witherspoon. En masse. And that meant TV, interview demands, crowds to be dealt with, performances to be put on. So much for sanctity. Hello, bravado. The carnival comes to the country.
You're going to win, no doubt.
Oh, no doubt about it. Gotta have in my mind when I go home.
Sure.
Then I want to have a positive attitude, a positive attitude of thinking.
Don't you feel sorry for the British Isles? We haven't had a heavyweight champion in a long while. Come on.
Hey.
Even the ultimate salesman, Muhammad Ali, was brought along just to peddle a few seats. And the show, slow though it might be, goes on. Now comes the burning question, posed by none other than Frank Bruno, the intended victim. Is the champion really ready to fight?
He wants me to be out of shape because he's not confident. I've been in training for 3 months. Me, I don't care what kind of shape he's in. I'm going out there to knock him out and keep my title. Now, I'm the champion. He got to come take it from me. And when he try, I'm going to chop his tree down.
But that tree, Frank Bruno, has some pretty strong limbs and has only fallen once. And some 50,000 supporters. Anticipation, you can cut it. The championship is coming up between the challenger, England's Frank Bruno, and the champion, Tim Witherspoon. Well, we've addressed the champion on numerous occasions. With his own comments on the challenger, here's Larry Merchant.
The image that most Americans have of British heavyweights is that they all fight the way the guards at Buckingham Palace look. Tall, erect, predictable, easy targets. Sort of like the red coats at Lexington and Concord. Is the image true? Is Frank Bruno just another big stiff? Another of those vertical Englishmen destined to become a horizontal Englishman? Well, there are some questions. There are questions about his jaw, questions about his endurance, and questions about his experience. But there's no question about his punch, and that's an important thing to have for a heavyweight. He may have the most powerful right hand in the division. The image of American heavyweights, Tim Witherspoon, isn't all that snazzy either these days. They tend to specialize more in paunch than punch. You'd think they train a little bit more seriously, if not out of athletic pride, just out of pure greed. You can't even count on that anymore. Whatever happens tonight, Frank Bruno has honored his profession by training seriously. Here's a look at him with our colleague from Britain, Reg Gutteridge.
His name is on the lips of most Britons these days. He stars in his own music video, been voted among the 10 best dressed in England, and has just released his autobiography and a top-selling record. For charity, he was a knockout as Juliet.
Oh Romeo, oh Romeo, I haven't seen thee since the wane, oh Romeo.
And through the magic of the telly, he had the power to make a boy's dream come true.
And now, from beautiful Scotland, here's a letter from Hill of Beath in Fife.
Dear Jim, please could you fix it for me to train with Frank Bruno, because I would like to be a boxer and I would like to find out what it is like. From Ryan.
The hero is Frank Bruno, and his popularity has catapulted him to star status. He's adored throughout Great Britain.
One big right hand, I think, came over and took Frank completely defensive.
The lovable giant, however, remains very close to his humble beginnings. This is where it all began for Frank Bruno. It's the district of Wandsworth, just south of the River Thames, a sort of straight left from Big Ben or Buckingham Palace. His parents came from the West Indies. They were among the first immigrants to settle in this part of the world. And then he became, well, as cockney as steak and kidney pie. He weighed in at 9 pounds, became big and a little bit troublesome, but since those days, as they would say around here, he's turned out a bloody good chap and indeed a British hero. What set him straight was a boarding school for scoundrels far from the streets of Wandsworth. It was tough at first, but in the end essential.
That school taught me a lot about life and discipline and how to look after yourself and survival, yeah, you could say. I've visited there 3 times since. The last time I went there was Christmas time, just to show the kids that anybody can make anything out of life. Just put hard work into life and determination, a little bit of luck, and God on your side, you can do anything you want to do.
And what Frank set out to do was become a successful prize fighter. In his first 21 pro fights, he never reached a decision, ending the majority with very early knockouts, as was the case in March of '84 against Juan Figueroa. This first round knockout may have made it seem that Frank was unstoppable.
Right hand puts his man down just under 1 minute from the start. And he doesn't look as though he's going to get up. Bruno Bruno's done it again.
Others would argue that these easy wins set Frank up for his painful knockout by Bone Crusher Smith. After that devastating loss, many felt that they'd seen the last 10 rounds of Bruno's career, but not for Frank.
Dear me, the end of the Bruno story by the look of this.
He just got down to work. He didn't go and bury himself either way. He just went straight back to work. And there's not many heavyweights do that, are there? Usually when they've got a bad loss like that, then you find that they take a year out, or, you know, but Frank didn't, he just got back to work.
Twice European champion Frenchman Lucien Rodriguez was Frank's fourth opponent after Bone Crusher. Bruno looked at this fight as an opportunity to tune up for his upcoming shot at the European Championship. But 34-year-old Rodriguez was out inside the first round. Frank Bruno barely broke a sweat. The fight for the European title was next on Bruno's agenda, but due to boxing politics it was on again and off again, so by the time Frank met Anders Eklund, he was concerned that his one round in the ring in 11 months would have a bad effect. Well, by the fourth round that concern was laid to rest and Frank was the European champion.
Is the European champion, and he's made his mark in the world.
All that stood between Frank and a shot at the world heavyweight title was Jeddy Coetzee. And he didn't stand very long. 1 minute 50 seconds into the first round, the fight was over and Bruno was on his way to making his dream come true and hopefully bring a world title to Britain.
He'll never make it. He's out. And Bruno is on his way to a crack at the world title. You can hardly believe
The Royal Oak Pub, and this is on the east side of London, and it's a tradition of British boxers that they train in gymnasiums above pubs. And this one is very special because with the Terry Lawless camp here, they have produced 4 recent world champions: Charlie Magri, Jim Watt, John H. Stracey and Morris Hope. And for Big Bruno, this is his sweatshop every day, and it's very serious business. For him, it's going to the office. For tonight's bout, this media hero has taken to training at the historic gym in obscurity, banning the press from his workouts. He's not taking any chances. Privacy means no distractions from his opponent, fans or reporters.
If you stand here for one day and you count as much people walk up them stairs and all sorts of people walk up them stairs, I think you'll go mad and you'll get upset. You know, the press men will come in, they want to talk and have a smile, and you're supposed to be sparring, you know what I mean? You can't have all that, Reg, you know what I mean? For an important fight like this, I'm not knocking people, and I'm not chucking away people what are supporting me over these years, but Sid Witherspoon or Mr. Witherspoon or whatever you want to call him, he's one dangerous fighter and one good fighter, but I've waited 8 years for this, Reg, and I'm willing to go in there and die, but I'm going to beat him that night. Hook or by crook, I'm coming out with that belt.
It's been a long and hard road for Frank Bruno. He's an honest and decent man. He's coped with the pressure of the media. He's coped with the pressure of stardom. He's even coped with the dodging the words of Tim Witherspoon. But nothing, absolutely nothing, has deterred him from the main thing, to become the first Briton to win the heavyweight championship this century. And it's all going to happen here. Know what I mean?
All right, thank you, Reg Guttridge. Know What I Mean, incidentally, is the name of Bruno's book. And right now, he's hoping to write the final chapter as Frank Bruno, not quite yet in view of this crowd, but when he does get just a few more steps, the crowd is going to tell you everything you want to know about the popularity of this man. In full view, you'll hear chanting, Bruno, Bruno, Bruno. It's a long walk of about 2.5 minutes from the locker room to the ring. Bedlam.
He says it's past his bedtime, but he looks very much awake.
And Frank Bruno might have taken the best shots of the night, getting from his locker room into the ring. Here he is.
to work. Unlike some heavyweights we know in America, who the first time they lost, they just disappeared.
All right, right now let's go up to the ring announcer, Bernard Sullivan, for the introduction of the British national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand to honor the British national anthem.
The chant starts, Bruno, Bruno, Bruno. Ray, interesting point. When we talked to Frank Bruno, you and I sat there with Frank Bruno, he compared this fight with your fight with Wilfred Benitez as being the be-all and end-all. He had to do this before he could do anything else.
Well, you know, Barry, he indicated to me that with my fight with Benitez, I gave it all I had, and nothing was going to stop me. He knows fully well that he's inexperienced as far as the experience level that Witherspoon possesses, but he has the determination, and this means the world to him.
I talked to him about what the difference in him now is after the Bone Crusher Smith fight. He said he's more mature, he's stronger, and just simply, he's a better boxer. He really seems to understand himself.
Well, he feels that he has matured, but he always prefers back to that devastating stoppage when Bone Crusher Smith was fought.
Let's take a look at some of the other British heavyweights who have come along since 1937 and had their shot at the title. These are just some of them. Tommy Farr, he lost to Joe Louis. Don Cockell. That is Cockell, not Cocknell. Matter of fact, I was at that fight with Rocky Marciano at Kezar Stadium in San Francisco. Brian London, of course, maybe he didn't really even belong in there. He did have a couple of shots, actually. Henry Cooper, he had 2 shots with Muhammad Ali. Brian London, again, as you see, with Muhammad Ali. Joe Bugner went 15 rounds, first to go 15 rounds with the then champion. And the last in 1976, Richard Dunn. It was a good effort for him, but he was just very much outclassed and was knocked out after a game effort by Muhammad Ali.
You know, I mentioned the odds before. They're about 8-5 in favor of Bruno here, just as they're 8-5 in favor of Witherspoon back in America. But there's some pretty good reasons for those odds. One, he figures to fight the best fight of his life. Secondly, if it goes the route, he may get the decision because he's here in his hometown. He is in better shape than Tim Witherspoon. That shape may not show itself in this fight, but he has given himself, we're talking about Frank Bruno, the best possible chance to win the fight. He's at 100% of what he can be. Tim Witherspoon is at something less than that.
Who has the most to prove in this fight?
Well, it's hard to say. I guess Bruno does because he's not regarded very, very highly at all. And fighting before almost 50,000 of his best friends, I'm sure that will give him some incentive to prove it.
And that's only a portion of his best friends, too. Frank Bruno, of course, has knocked out 27 of his 28 victims so far. There have been some very short bouts, in the heavyweight division. The three of us, of course, we saw the 1 and 3 second fight. Had to look quickly, but it was Michael Dokes and Mike Weaver. And then, of course, Burns and Roche, Fraser and Ziglowitz. By the time he said Ziglowitz, the fight was over. And Ali enlisted, of course, 1 minute and 52 seconds in the first round. I don't think there are a lot of people around who feel that this one will even approach that.
Well, you know, there are the British themselves, having gone through so many frustrations with their heavyweights over the century, are the most skeptical about Bruno. They're not sure he can take a punch. He's been rocked by several heavyweights. But on the other hand, Tim Witherspoon, in every single fight he's fought against a legitimate top 10 type of guy, He's gone the distance. He may not be the guy that can test this man's chin. We'll see.
Ray, let's talk about another thing that we've touched on numerous occasions. Frank Bruno right now has just got to walk around, think about what's going on, what's going to happen a little bit later. Tim Witherspoon, he's the champion. He's making him wait. And again, when you and I talked to Frank Bruno, he said this time, right now, is the time that he's the most nervous. And Witherspoon's getting the most out of this.
There's so many things that's going through Frank Bruno's mind at the present time. Whether or not he will win, how the fight's going to turn out. And here we see Tim Witherspoon approaching the ring. Witherspoon, 235. I think he's giving Frank Bruno a better chance of beating him.
It's something that's hard for me to understand. All that Tim Witherspoon has to do in his professional life is prepare for a fight. It could mean millions of dollars, and he just hasn't given himself the best chance. All kinds of excuses for why he's 15 pounds more than what he should be. They say the scales were wrong. They say they were at their weight early in the week, in which case he must get some kind of medal for fattening up on British food. I didn't know that it was that good, and I've been here for a month.
Did anybody have the same feeling that I had when we talked to Witherspoon, that there is this whole carnival atmosphere and it's a much talked about fight? I had the feeling, frankly, that Tim Witherspoon was a little bit caught up in the atmosphere and maybe wasn't really considering the fight all that much.
Well, he's never received this much adulation, especially in America. Here, the people love him. They see a champion. They want to touch a champion. He loves it, Barry. I think he is actually caught up in it because he said, Ray, I've always wanted this. I've always desired having people take pictures, signing autographs, being a star.
Well, we talk about the fact he came in at 235 pounds. He was that once before, but that was not for a championship fight. Take a look then at his championship fights. 235 tonight, 227 when he beat Tony Tubbs, 217 when he lost to Pinklin Thomas. And Larry Merchant, you pointed out, we were talking before the fight, that maybe the most significant thing about all that is that in 2 title fights, he's 18 pounds heavier.
Well, I don't know what to add to what I've already said, except when I ask him about it, he says, I feel good. I feel comfortable. Hey, if you want to feel good and comfortable, go to the Riviera and lay on the beach. This is not the place to feel good and comfortable. This is the place to toughen yourself up and to perform your job. It's feeling good and comfortable. That comes afterwards.
And not only that, if there's been any criticism about Tim Witherspoon, it's been that he has only one speed, slow, and that was at 217. Now here he is 18 pounds heavier.
Well, as I said before, you don't know if in this fight it will make the difference. You don't know if Bruno can take advantage of that. Somewhere along the way it will make the difference. Here, incidentally, is a graphic showing our heavyweight series and where we are. Down at the bottom you see where it started with Spinks and Holmes. Michael Spinks' next defense will be against Stefan Hangstad, and the less said about that, the better right now. And then after that, presumably he'll meet the winner of the WBC and WBA. When that gets sorted out between Bruno and Witherspoon tonight, the winner to meet Tubbs, and the winner of that to meet the winner of Berbick and whoever Berbick fights.
And we talked about what a lengthy walk it is from the dressing rooms to the ring.
This is the most conditioning that Witherspoon has done in 3 months.
Most road work, for sure. As a matter of fact, there was some talk about his coming in on a golf cart. And he said, no, my people, my entourage, want this walk into the ring. And that's why he's doing it.
In fairness to Witherspoon, his trainer, Jim Robinson, said that they really did some serious training back in the States. And we'll have to see if that's true or not. The scales usually don't lie.
You know, this crowd, and we talked about what a dramatic effect the crowd could have on this evening. The crowd seems to me, at least right now, to be strangely quiet. Not only for Witherspoon, but frankly it did for Bruno as well when he entered the ring.
I was quite surprised, Barry, because I was expecting an explosion and a lot of cheering, a lot of chanting, but they were a little quiet than expected.
They meet in the center of the ring.
And there you see Tim Witherspoon's record, his 2 losses to Larry Holmes and Pinklin Thomas. He's been in with many more contenders than the challenger.
Speaking of that, too, as a matter of fact, when we talked to Frank Bruno, Bruno said he about Tim Witherspoon right after he fought Larry Holmes. Not so much so now. Let's get back up to the ring announcer for the introduction of the American National Anthem now.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, please stand to honor the national anthem of the United States.
The tail of the tape, and the most significant number we have talked about a couple of times already, and that is the weight of Tim Witherspoon, 7 pounds more than Bruno. Let's hear the introductions.
Welcome you to Wembley for the main event of the evening. And this is a contest of 15 rounds, 3 minutes each round, to decide the heavyweight championship of the world. Presenting from Philadelphia, the champion, Tim Witherspoon. The challenger, Frank Bruno.
Bruno is magnificently muscled, probably the best body on a heavyweight since Ken Norton.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, at the weigh-in today at the Odeon Leicester Square, Witherspoon scaled 16 stone, 10 pounds, 12 ounces, or 235 pounds. Bruno scaled 16 stone, 3 pounds, 15 ounces, or 228 pounds. The officials appointed by the World Boxing Association are your referee, Mr. Isidro Rodriguez of Venezuela, your judges, Mr. Carlos Sucre of Venezuela, Mr. Takeshi Shimakawa of Japan, Mr. Marco Torres of Panama, and your timekeeper is Mr. Tommy Rice of the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Well, one significant factor is that Frank Bruno has now been in the ring 21 minutes.
I'm expecting an early night.
Well,
I think the first thing in any fight, and especially in a heavyweight fight, is which fighter can take the other fighter's punch best. Bruno is the harder puncher, but Witherspoon is a very clever boxer as he moves in, and he's never been knocked down. So, in fact, even if Witherspoon isn't a devastating puncher, his punch landing on Bruno's jaw may be more devastating.
Here's a look at the rules. 3 judges will score the fight, 10-point must system. 3 knockdown rule is in effect. A mandatory standing 8 count. You can be saved by the bell only in the final round, and the ring doctor, in this case, cannot stop the fight. So what's left then is the fight.
I think that Bruno will try to establish his jab. He may feel that the longer the fight goes, the better off he is, given Witherspoon's weight. But Witherspoon knows how to go the distance.
Witherspoon told us he was going to jump on him early, talk to him as much as he could, try to confuse him, try to hook him with the right hand as much as he can in the early rounds. Now we'll see if he does it.
He's going to be more effective inside Witherspoon will, because he gets his punches in a lot sharper, a lot cleaner, whereas that Bruno relies upon getting that straight right hand in.
Right. I think a key here is whether Bruno's left is meaningful.
Round 1, there was the right hand right off the bat by Witherspoon.
Well, Timmy Witherspoon claimed he's going to stay close to Bruno, not allow him to try to measure him with his jab. Here we see Witherspoon using his jab a lot more, trying to stay close to Bruno, not give Bruno that punching room he needs. If you notice, in all Bruno's knockouts, it's always been from the outside. He's never been able to stop an opponent with inside punching.
Bruno uses his jab only to set up his right hand. It's not a particularly effective jab. It's a busy jab, but it's not a weapon.
Witherspoon, being a former football player, uses his shoulders very well, but I like what he does inside. He covers up, he blocks that chin. He comes across with a looping right hand. You'll notice after he lands a couple, he'll continue to do that until he works his man's body.
Witherspoon fighting effectively inside here. That's what he did with Tony Tubbs, and for all intent, he shut Tubbs down.
Inside, you notice inside the way that Witherspoon is able to execute his punches. A lot sharper, a lot cleaner. Whereas that Bruno, his punches are somewhat telegraphed because he can't get the leverage.
That was the Bruno right hand to the top of the head. And you've said that he can do damage to the top of the head.
I'm really impressed with the fact that Bruno was able to hurt a man by hitting him on the top of the head. He had so much power, so much physical strength. Bruno relies a great deal on his right hand. There's that right hand with the Witherspoon's coming in, but he started for a while, started telegraphing.
And the right hand is getting in. Witherspoon shrugs his shoulders, said it didn't do nothing. That usually means it hurt.
Bruno has improved through the course of his fighting because he keeps his hands higher, a little bit more mobility upstairs, more body movement, upper body movement. There's the right hand again, Barry. It's not going to land because he's trying to load up. Witherspoon is trying to load up with one punch. That weight, I honestly feel, is a factor here.
I thought Bruno handled himself well that round. He looked poised and composed. He didn't try to rush himself. There's no doubt that Witherspoon doesn't think much of his opponent. That's why he weighs what he does. But what if he's wrong?
I want to remind you that In the second round, we're going to eavesdrop on our British counterparts from ITV, and the man you heard talk about Frank Bruno, Reg Guthridge. He'll be telling you about the second round. We'll hear how the British do it for the British. Also want to remind you that we have our own official, unofficial judge, Harold Letterman, standing by, and he will give us his scorecard from time to time through this fight just to try to get a barometer. Let's listen to the ITV and Reg Guthridge.
Into this second round then. Very surprised and pleased too for Bruno that he's fighting inside like that, Jim, fighting well.
Yeah, this is a good start with Bruno. I know Bruno's camp reckon that Bruno's jab is going to trouble Witherspoon, and already he's sticking the jab out with plenty of power behind it. Witherspoon is a lot more dangerous than Bruno inside, as you can see here. If Frank can keep it at long range, unload some of the bombs, we'll all get what we're hoping for.
He might look like a bit of a podgy man there, Witherspoon, but I tell you, he really is durable. And he stays 15 rounds like he really does. Marathon runner. But whether he's treated Bruno too lightly, we're now going to find out, because this is sharp stuff from Bruno. That quick win over Jerry Coetzee certainly has given him some marvellous confidence. But he's having to take some raps around the head nonetheless. It's not all going his way. Not trying to throw full power in with every punch, Bruno. That's smart. He can just rattle a few in to keep Witherspoon occupied while he's working out what he's going to do with the harder shots. Bruno's manager, Terry Lawless, is always saying the opposition's space changes when they feel Bruno's left jab, Jim. Do you think that's happened or not here? I don't really think we can judge that, can we?
Well, it certainly does. You have to remember that the big difference at this stage is that Witherspoon has been here before. This is the first time Bruno's boxed at this level. Now, Witherspoon knows he's good over the distance. He knows he has a good chin, so he's not in any hurry. Bruno needs a good start, therefore this is probably Bruno's best work he's putting out at this stage, because he wants that good start. But at all times, Witherspoon's going to be dangerous.
Crowd rising to that as Witherspoon kind of floundered across the ring a bit. He was caught off balance, but he was caught nonetheless.
Peculiar sort of a fight that Witherspoon is waging so far. He's trying to land a big punch to test the chin of Bruno, and he is whiffing. It's as though he's hitting against Gooden or Clemens.
Just want to insert very quickly that the other voice you heard on the ITV broadcast was that of Jim Watt, former lightweight champion.
Here's a replay. Bruno to our back. A quick right hand. A left that was blocked by Witherspoon. Witherspoon is just pawing at him, using that left hand to keep him off. Not doing a whole lot with it. But you saw in that quick right hand the potential danger that this British fighter had.
So we come to the third round, and Witherspoon, and this has also been his history, breathing through his mouth, but I've seen him do that this early and go 15 strong rounds.
Well, I've noticed that Bruno has been working the body of Tim Witherspoon. He's going where the weight is. He's trying to slow his man down. I see a problem in Bruno. As he moves back, he's straight up. And again, that right hand of Witherspoon could possibly land. Good body shot by Tim Witherspoon. inside. Bruno has to keep those hands high.
Tim Witherspoon, remember, has never been off his feet.
Tim has better movement. I've seen him move a lot better, a lot quicker. Here he's relying on just strength and experience.
And he missed with all three of those.
He's trying to load up Barry. Tim's looking for that one big punch, trying to hurt his man. Good right hand there. Trying to hurt his man, and then jump on top of it. For what little experience Frank Bruno possesses, one thing about him, he keeps that jab working. He keeps it in his man's face.
And the cleaner shots coming from the fists of Frank Bruno.
Now this is when Bruno has to be careful. You notice, every time he starts punching, Witherspoon retaliates.
Witherspoon doesn't look particularly shaken at all, even though the crowd has really risen to it.
Those are some wicked body shots thrown by Witherspoon. They will slow Bruno down.
Every time you find a stick the jab, you're stopping them.
And Harold Letterman, how have you got the thing scored so far?
Well, Larry, I've got Frank Bruno ahead by 1 round. I gave the first round to Timmy Witherspoon in a feeling out round, which was very, very close. But then Frank Bruno started to take control, and he's been backing up Timmy Witherspoon and landing nice quick combinations, and as you called it, a nice crisp left jab. So I've got Frank Bruno winning the second and the third round, Timmy Witherspoon winning the first.
I have a little bit of a disagreement with you, Harold. I have Bruno winning the first 3 rounds. I don't see what Witherspoon is trying to do. He doesn't seem to have a plan. He's not really pressing Bruno, not using his supposed advantage inside by staying on top of him. I'm not sure what his plan is, Ray.
Well, so far, I'm sure he just relied on strength, because normally you see a lot crisper punches thrown by Witherspoon. Witherspoon is also a better inside fighter than what he's shown today. I'm somewhat surprised by the way he's been throwing those shots, those telegraphing right hands. And he's allowing Bruno to get his punches off and steal around.
In Bruno's corner, they were encouraging him to keep jabbing, to get that jab in, that when he did, he was being effective. Incidentally, we should point out that those of you used to watching HBO's coverage of boxing here might be used to seeing a few more close-up shots, a few more different angles, but we have not had the red carpet rolled out to us here.
It seemed like Witherspoon was hurt for a second. A left hook.
He does seem to be a little bit on wobbly legs here.
He wobbled for a second there, Timmer.
And he's still not too solid. To conclude that thought, our ringside cameras have been ordered off the ring apron, so what you see is pretty much what we get.
That was a short left hook thrown by Frank Bruno, and it seemed to have buckled the knees of Witherspoon. Witherspoon backed off, didn't throw any punches.
There was a right hand, and Witherspoon covered up.
Bruno has knocked a lot of guys out by hitting him on the side of the head, on the forehead. And that shows how much power he possesses. He's keeping those hands up when Witherspoon counters with his left hook. Bruno is going to school here, and he's being a very good student at this point here.
Good uppercut. You saw him set up Anders Ekberg for the knockout with an uppercut.
Also, Witherspoon is starting to reach in with his punches. Hands are starting to drop. Good indication of fatigue. The weight did that was a good combination. Didn't do too much damage to Bruno. Bruno comes back with his own combination.
And another uppercut.
I was expecting Witherspoon to be effective inside, but Bruno seems to be doing a pretty good job here.
Another busy round for the challenger. Another listless round for the champion.
Relax, be careful on them ropes.
Yeah. Just hang in there with your teeth.
The one.
Those fellows up here.
You don't want to do that, Mono. Stick the jab. When he calls you on, that's what he wants you to do. He's looking to suck you.
Come on, Tim. Come on, baby. Push, baby.
Got too much hype on him now, Tim.
Okay. You're the champ, baby. Oh, come on now. Come on. Come on, baby.
Already you're starting to hear some anxiety in the Witherspoon camp.
You have to wonder also whether or not Timmy's now starting to show more respect for Frank Bruno, and the anxieties that are in his corner. Quite naturally, his corner is somewhat concerned because they see that Bruno is still in the rounds.
And showing a good ability to come over the top with the right hand. He did it just a moment ago again.
He's showing poise. He's showing composure. He's really taking his time and being a professional fighter in here. Bruno is showing more experience than he possesses. You also have to wonder whether or not Bruno can maintain this tempo, this pace. Witherspoon can because of experience. He knows how to take a breather every now and then. But whether or not Bruno can maintain this, you'll be able to see that as the rounds go by.
Witherspoon did back him off that time with the left hand. Bruno, remember, has not gone past 10 rounds.
But Bruno is not wasting any energy, any punches. He's right in front of his man, and he just slipping and sliding. And throwing 3, 4, 5 punch combinations. Keeping that jab consistent. He's doing very what Witherspoon has allowed him to do.
Another thing impressive about Frank Bruno is his corner. Very calm, one man talking, Terry Lawless, and that's it.
Well, the fight is going as they expected. Bruno is actually dominating and controlling the fight, which is, I'm sure, is a surprise to the Witherspoon camp. And I have to say, a lot more about that weight. I think it's becoming a factor because Witherspoon is not getting his punches off with the snap.
From Bruno, but effective punches, and the crowd chants.
Witherspoon still drilling those shots to the body, trying to bring the hands of Frank Bruno down. And those shots hurt. Now this is when Bruno should not try to exchange punch for punch with Witherspoon. He should continue to do what he's doing now. Well, for the most part, Tim Witherspoon is floating like a butterball and stinging like rye crisp here. He's throwing a lot of stuff and punching the air more than his opponent.
All right, Tim, pump that left jab. Timmy, when you throw that right hand down to the side, Timmy, take the left hook over on top, okay? You hit him with that right hand behind the arm, all right? And turn the left hook over there, okay?
And here's our punch stat cumulative look at the fight. Tim Witherspoon in 5 rounds threw 264 punches and landed, if you can say that, 81. Bruno has been more active with 311 punches, and he has landed more often with 101.
And now Bruno goes downstairs. Little blood from the nose of Frank Bruno. And he's warned for holding.
Again, moving back, dropping that left hand. And I think he's asking for trouble in doing so. But also, with the fact that Witherspoon's punches have not been that sharp, he's not too concerned about it.
Neither man too sharp in this round, actually. It was 6. That was a right hand by Witherspoon. Another wild right hand.
You see the combination thrown by Bruno was that Witherspoon relied upon one punch, just trying to load up too much. Fighters have a tendency to make a somewhat of an easy fight tough for them because of their conditioning.
And again, Witherspoon seemed to get Bruno opened up, but is just unable to connect.
Well, he's throwing a lot of body shots. Witherspoon throws some devastating shots to the body, and he's trying to make Bruno exchange punch for punch. Because again, normally inside, Witherspoon has proven to be a far more effective fighter.
Bruno also, Ray, seems to throw almost a backhanded jab. We mentioned earlier, it's not really a weapon. It's just kind of bothersome.
It's just something to keep his man thinking and set his man up for the right hand, which is his big punch. But Timmy is actually giving away rounds.
Maybe Tim Witherspoon won that round. After a while, after one fighter wins all the rounds, you tend to look for reasons to give the other fighter the round, and so we'll give Witherspoon the benefit of the doubt there. And Harold Letterman, your card, and Explain, please.
Well, Larry, I agree with you in the 6th round. I think Timmy Witherspoon pulled it out with his big right hands. As Ray said, Timmy Witherspoon tends to be loading up with the right hand. He's looking to take Frank Bruno out with one big right hand. And I have it 4 rounds to 2 in favor of Bruno, who's using a crisp left jab. He's more effective with the left jab. He's landing more punches, and that's why I have Frank Bruno ahead. I think that his crisp left jab is winning in the round.
Witherspoon is a blend of flab and fortitude. As fat as he is, he's still trying hard.
He always gives that appearance, as a matter of fact, that he's just about to drop with the next step. And he manages to go 15 tough rounds, and he manages to win.
Good enough hook by Frank Bruno. It's quite impressive that this big man is doing combinations the way he's doing. He's executing his punches very well.
What a wild, winging right hand by Witherspoon.
That is not the Tim Witherspoon that I've seen in the past. You know, I stated earlier, Barry, that this weight is making the fight a lot easier for Frank Bruno.
There's a little swelling under the left eye of Tim Witherspoon.
Your punches, and with this kind of weight, additional poundage, your punches are not sharp. You don't get the same type of leverage either. Double left hook by Frank Bruno. See much more of a lackadaisical Tim Witherspoon.
Yeah, he's a fighter who, like Frank Bruno, his best weapon is his right hand, and it has not been very impressive tonight. There was a good right hand by Witherspoon. And again. And there's a left hand by Witherspoon. And another right, and Bruno backs up, and for the first time, appears to have been hurt.
Well, Bruno now should not be here. He should not be there, rather. He's allowing Witherspoon to get off those big shots, those leaping right hands, and those left hooks. This is what Witherspoon waited for the whole time, for Bruno to stand toe-to-toe with him.
Swelling under the left eye of Witherspoon, getting a little bit worse.
Bruno took those shots very well. He seemed to wobble a little just a second. He needs to bring those hands up a little higher.
Bruno trying to work on that eye. It could become a problem for Witherspoon. Another good right hand by Tim Witherspoon.
Witherspoon landed some good right hands, although he's never shown knockout power.
Maybe you got him now.
And Bruno, who's supposed to not have a very good chin, withstood the right hands. He came back looking a little worse for the wear at the end of that round, however.
Real good.
Let's take a look and see what Witherspoon did. There you see a right high on the head. Good punch. Working inside, head to head. Another good punch, but an arm punch. And that's principally why Witherspoon has never been a knockout puncher. He gets big sweeping punches like that. Arm punches. They hurt a man. They don't seem to daze him. Let's see how Bruno recovers from that round here. Could be a significant round here in the 8th, middle of the fight.
Right at the moment, it follows the pattern of a number of Tim Witherspoon's fights. Witherspoon is not cut, but he's got a mouse under it. And it got appreciably worse as the 7th round went on.
Witherspoon is applying a little more pressure now because he said he was effective in staying on top of Bruno.
A good right hand by Bruno. Not as good as the crowd would seem to make you think, though. And that one was caught largely on the gloves.
Witherspoon trying to get close to his man. Trying to make Bruno change punch for punch.
Another good right hand by Witherspoon. This is with a second, however.
As Bruno retreats, that's when he's here.
That was a big right hand by Witherspoon there. Witherspoon seems to be able to score with one effective punch, but just has not been able to double up.
You'll notice, Barry, every time that Bruno throws those beautiful combinations, he backs away, and Witherspoon connects.
Still a long way to go here.
Witherspoon now southpaw, now turned back right hand. He's trying everything. Also running in.
Scored with a left hand.
He's run into some couple punches.
And a left hand by Witherspoon. A good shot. Counter-punching left hand. Does it seem, Ray, like a little of Bruno's sting is gone right now?
Yes, those shots are by the rip nose shots. And I tell you, Witherspoon is tired. He's dropping his hand. Bruno is exhausted. But these guys are showing a great deal of heart.
And again, it could become significant, the fact that Frank Bruno has never gone more than 10 rounds, and Witherspoon has virtually made a career out of fights that go the distance.
That's a grueling round, and I think you hit it right, Barry. A question of stamina, endurance will tell from here on.
Right.
Whether Bruno's superior condition can overcome his experience.
There you see our punch stat, number of punches thrown and landed. Going through 8 rounds. Just
I'm on Frank now, you've got to get it together. This is what the championship of the world's all about. This one's important, this round, Frank. This round's important. You've got to impose it. Just tap yourself up, stick the jab, to be slowly.
This is becoming a fight now, Ray.
One thing about it, Bruno, I'm really impressed with him because he does not have the experience to go 15 rounds. Yet he's conditioned for 15 rounds. He came off his stool with so much enthusiasm. And Witherspoon knows that he's in for a tough fight here.
There's a good right-hand lead by Bruno that time. Both men working the body.
There's a lot to be said about Frank Bruno's chin, too. That was a big question mark, whether or not he could take the punching power of Witherspoon.
You know, the other thing that strikes me, Ray, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier during the entrances to the ring, and there was a good combination by Witherspoon, is that this crowd, which I really thought would be a factor in Bruno's corner, doesn't seem to be a factor at all in the fight. It's very quiet.
They just enjoying the fight, but I was expecting the crowd to go bananas for Frank Bruno.
Another good right hand. Tim Witherspoon.
That was a solid right hand by Witherspoon. And Bruno still standing.
And a left hand behind it, and that backs up Frank Bruno. Now Bruno turns Witherspoon around, gets him on the ropes, and hammers to the body. I don't believe Witherspoon was hurt by any of that.
He was disturbed by something. He looked over at the referee for a second. This is when experience comes in. You notice that Witherspoon is tying his man up, then he comes back with his own combination.
Both men have shown a very good ability to come back after taking a good shot. Crowd reacting to Bruno's keeping Witherspoon pinned, but really it's Witherspoon who is dishing out the most punishment here. By Witherspoon.
Witherspoon has been coming on. We said earlier that Bruno would be energized by this crowd. He'll need it
The other guy's cut.
for the remainder of this fight.
The other guy. And Tim hit a little nice one, too. Settle down.
Harold, how do you have it through 9 rounds?
Well, Larry, basically I agree with you. I think Timmy's come on to grab the last 4 rounds and to take the lead 5 rounds to 4. Timmy's landing the big punches, the big right hands. I thought Frank was doing his best when he was staying in the middle of the ring and using that crisp left jab. But now Timmy's getting inside, wearing him down with that big right hand.
You and I are still 1 round apart. I haven't scored the first round for Bruno against Witherspoon, so I have it 5-4 for Bruno.
This is the 10th round.
Good stiff jab by Frank Bruno. He has to use that jab a lot more. He's making himself susceptible to take those shots by Witherspoon by staying inside. It's too long. If he decides to stay close, he needs to keep that chin tucked in. It's difficult to hit a man with those kind of shots thrown by Witherspoon when you're very close to him. It's when you move away, it's when he connects.
The fact is, Witherspoon has hit the heavier shots in the last 4 rounds, but has been unable to really double up with them. And Bruno does not seem to pack the power that he had in the early rounds.
I see a little bit more boxing from Frank Bruno. Like he's trying different things. Lead off right, keeping the jab in Witherspoon's face. Uppercut. And Witherspoon should not be blowing his nose, especially when there is a swelling over the eye. Because what happens, the eye swells up. Playing to referee for some of those rabbit punches thrown by Bruno.
And Witherspoon fighting back, but fighting back very wildly, very much out of control.
Witherspoon at times just comes in with his hands down. He's starting to rush himself now, Barry.
The Bruno jab, rather, when he uses it, seems to be pretty effective, at least in keeping Witherspoon off of him.
The jab is so stiff and so strong. That's what happened.
There's a quick right hand by Witherspoon, a left behind it.
There's basically no rhyme or reason to what's going on in here. Just two big guys slugging on each other. It's not a fight that'll go in a time capsule. It's just a big bruising fight.
It's there. It's only there. Come on. I'll just show you that fight. Get that chin. Breathe. Come on, please. Just smart. Stay there. Stick to your jab, right? Beat him to the jab, right? Don't let him beat you. You beat him to the jab, right? So take the right hand again, right? Don't waste it. All your chances and swings. Just watch him fit and if he bowls and slamming, just take up. And whack that body.
Frank Bruno has gone farther than he's ever gone before. There's a big right hand behind two jabs by Witherspoon.
One thing I've noticed in Frank Bruno is that when he fought Bone Crusher Smith, he was hurt and never covered up. Just kept his hands down. Here, he covers up. He ties his man up. He's doing a very good job.
The swelling that was under the eye of Tim Witherspoon, no worse than it was 4 rounds ago. But Frank Bruno has a little bit of swelling around his eye also. More around his right eye. Again, it doesn't really appear to be any kind of a problem right now.
What can prove to be effective for Frank Bruno? You notice he throws combination. All he has to do as he back away, all he has to do is keep his hands high, and he won't be hit by those shots.
Well, the tempo has slowed right now to a dance, foxtrot. That was a good left hand, and Witherspoon for just a moment buckled.
It seems as though the face of Frank Bruno is swollen. The jaw. He's taking some tremendous shots.
Trouble here. 10 seconds remaining, and Bruno is shook. And Bruno against the ropes in a corner is down. The bell saves Frank Bruno. For how long is the question? And that
it looks like they've thrown in the towel. The corner of Frank Bruno has thrown in the towel. I don't know if that's an official end to the fight or not, but they have thrown in the towel. And the fight appears to be over.
There is Frank's mother, and she is right now as confused as anyone else. Still pandemonium. The fight is most definitely over. It was after a big exchange by both men. Bruno scored also, but a counter-punching, I believe it was a right hand that started things for Tim Witherspoon.
Bruno has nothing to feel bad about. I think he showed a good account of himself and experience. And here we have a shot of that punch that did the damage. It was an overhand right that Witherspoon was able to land and put Bruno in a lot of trouble. Bruno here still holding his own. Now he's bumped. Now he's seriously hurt. But he did the right thing, Barry. He tied his man up. He tried to clinch. Witherspoon, with his experience, knew exactly what to do. To keep punching, wait for another opportunity, and get Bruno out of there. At this point now, Bruno does not have the staying power, nor the experience to deal with Tim Witherspoon.
And at that point, he was all but out. Time was ticking down at the end of the round, but here you can see he's out on his feet. Took quite a lot of punishment there.
Well, I think the referee should have been in there a lot sooner also.
And he stepped in there, but he didn't step in to stop the fight. He stepped in because the round had ended.
And here we have another shot. Overhand right. Bruno came back with the shot, but by then, he was already hurt. Those right hands
Came
did the
behind
job.
a strong right hand by Frank Bruno. Bruno was the one that scored to start things. Witherspoon came back with a right hand, back with another one, had the left behind that, and by that time was all over.
It was a tougher fight for Tim Witherspoon. I think the weight was a factor. I'm curious to see what he has to say about it.
All right, well, we're going to find out what Tim Witherspoon has to say about it. He's with Larry Merchant right now.
All right, Tim Witherspoon, you tell us about the end. Did you sense him weakening in the last few rounds?
No, he was strong. He was strong and determined, young, determined. Just that I'm the great champion I'm supposed to be. Hung in there hard and wanted to pull it off.
That's right. Did he ever hurt you in this fight?
Yes, he did. I'm not going to lie, or else I wouldn't be a real champion. He hurt me. That's because he's a good fighter, good contender.
Right. Did he hurt you badly and when?
He hurt me more than anybody else because he's a good fighter, and I respect him, but I knew I was going to get him in the long run. I'm a great champion, Larry.
Right. You started very, very slowly. Did you think that stamina would be more of a problem for him than you because he's never gone very far in fights?
Well, to tell you the truth, I didn't care about stamina. I trained hard. Henrietta King really pushed to get me in shape. She gave me everything I needed, and I love her.
If you trained hard, why did you come in at your weight?
Well,
Bruno. Good fight, Bruno.
Well,
1 minute.
Well, I really, all week.
All right, he wants to talk to Frank Bruno. They're exchanging
Good show, Bruno. Good show.
Post-fight commiserations and congratulations.
Well, all week I was weighing in at 225, and I don't understand it. The weight came in 235, but I weighed in at around about 228 after the weigh-in today, so I think it was tampering with the scale. I was light.
You thought that the scales were wrong at the fight?
I feel that way. All week I was weighing in at 225, now all of a sudden I'm weighing in at 235.
You haven't knocked many guys out. A lot of people are going to say you just knocked out another of those Englishmen who can't stay upright very long.
He could fight. I could punch, and I took him out faster than Bone Crusher anybody, so I respect the man. I'm just a great fighter.
Thank you, Tim Witherspoon.
Thank you.
Now back to ringside.
All right, thanks very much, Larry, and a gracious winner in Tim Witherspoon. Right now, let's get the official decision, and then we'll have a little bit more to say about this fight. Let's go up to Bernard Sullivan for the official verdict.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, Frank Bruno, having failed to make the count, the winner and still heavyweight champion of the world is Tim Witherspoon. Thank you. And a hand for the loser, please.
absolute chaos going on in the ring right now. You might expect that. A few coins, I think, actually picked up about 20p here, right? 20 pence, that is, just so people at home know what that's all about. I do think that you really have to give Tim Witherspoon some credit. We talked about the fact he came in heavy. Yes, he did. He breathed through his mouth from the second round on. I've seen him do that before. It was a courageous effort, and I think you might have to start to look at him as really a bona fide champion.
Well, Tim Witherspoon is a bona fide champion, but I think he can make fights a lot easier for himself if he conditions himself, disciplines himself a little better. He claimed about tampering the scales. That could possibly be true. No one knows truly what happened. But I think that he could have been in better shape, and it could have made this fight a lot easier for him.
Did he just beat another fighter tonight? What do you think of Frank Bruno?
I think that Tim Witherspoon beat a contender. He beat a guy that was determined to win. I mean, quite naturally, Bruno didn't have the experience, but he had a lot of heart, and he had those physical attributes, that power, and he displayed that tonight.
Is he a guy who can knock out people on a regular basis? He hasn't shown that until tonight. And even tonight, he really did look a little bit wild and maybe even a little bit sloppy.
Well, tonight, he showed he was going to school, and he was a good student. I think he learned a great deal, Bruno did, and a great deal in this fight. I think this fight, if anything, is going to help him out in his career.
Bottom line, of course, for Tim Witherspoon is he won. It doesn't matter if you knock the man out, if you go 15 rounds, if it's a split decision, a majority decision, he won the fight. That's the bottom line.
Well, that's what counts. And in fact, it goes in the book as a win. And I'm sure Witherspoon is going to check this fight out, review the tape, and get back in the gym.
Now he's got to go back and face Tony Tubbs again. He's already beaten Tony Tubbs once. Is it difficult to get yourself motivated to get back in there against a guy who you have to feel you can beat again relatively easily, as you did the first time?
Well, I think we'll see a different Tony Tubbs. And this experience here with all these people and being basically for Frank Bruno, this is a learning process here.
All right, a final word then from Larry Merchant. Larry?
At the end of the day, as the British say, what they still do best is pomp and circumstance, royal pomp and circumstance. A great royal show. We're supposed to have a big royal wedding here in another week between Andrew and his Sarah, and that is indeed what the British do better than everyone else. What Americans do better than everyone else is have heavyweight champions, no matter how many of them we have to have to prove it. There's a couple of things I'd like to say about Tim Witherspoon. That fight tonight was not the greatest heavyweight fight we've seen. There were times I thought, well, if Sarah and her man never have a more bitter argument than they're having in here, they'll have a very successful marriage. Tim Witherspoon wasn't in the great shape, and tonight it didn't prove to be the difference in the fight. But he has to understand two things. That one, that what the public wants in a heavyweight champion especially is someone who can dominate his opponent. Dominate him with force, hopefully, but with foot speed or personality or any other way if that doesn't work. And secondly, they want a heavyweight champion to look like a heavyweight champion, to carry himself like a heavyweight champion. Because if he doesn't get in shape, if he doesn't care enough about his own profession and title to look like a champion, people are going to say, why should I care about him? That's something Tim Witherspoon is going to have to keep in mind for the next time we see him, which will be against Tony Tubbs. Ray and Barry?
Okay, thanks, Larry Merchant. And let's take a look then at our path to unify the heavyweight championship. And as Larry Merchant mentioned, we've already talked about the next opponent for Tim Witherspoon will be Tony Tubbs. What about the others in that competition? Well, let's take a look at the road to the championships, and here it is. It'll be Witherspoon Tubbs. Trevor Berbick will have to fight somebody. Who knows who that might be? Spinks and Tankstead, well, that's a fight that you have to think Michael Spinks is just going to walk through. Tankstead, incidentally, he's the European champion. Witherspoon Tubbs, it's happened once before. There's no reason to think that the results wouldn't be exactly the same. The last time the two of them fought, Tim Witherspoon just said Tony Tubbs wasn't very tough. Just that simple.
Well, I think it's going to see a different Tony Tubbs, a more conditioned Tony Tubbs, and this should be a lesson to all the heavyweights get in shape.
All right, what your final comments then about Tim Witherspoon? Bona fide champion amongst the three champions now. Where does he stand?
Well, I think Timmy stands up there with the rest of the guys. But you know, Bert, this was a lesson to Tim Witherspoon. First of all, I think he did get caught up in the the acceptance and the hoopla and the adulations, because he did state the fact that he's enjoying this, the autograph, the cameras and what have you, and it's something that he's always desired. He's getting here, and it's more down the road, but he has to prove himself a lot better.
There's a bottom line about about Tim Witherspoon, too, and Frank Bruno for that matter. Both good guys. I know that doesn't win fights, but Tim Witherspoon's a good guy, worthy to be a champion. I think he's always said he's a guy who's got a cloud following him around. Well, tonight, if you will, was a sunny day for Tim Witherspoon. We want to remind you to